Welcome to the podcast, Ramji.
Namaste.
So you're saying Bharat Mata is Kali?
Bharat Mata is Kali. Kali was invoked during the independence. Asindo Sindhu Padyanta Yasya Bharata Bhumika. Pitrubhu Punyabhuschaiva Savai Hinduriti Smrta.
So what is the history of this word Bharat?
The meaning of Bharat is much more important than the history of Bharat. Bharat means the landmass where people rejoice in light.
But that could be somewhere in America also.
If they can take the idea of Bharat and apply there, we can call it Bharat too. Tantra is the philosophy which liberates us.
Can you give us some clarity on what is tantric sex?
It is the most dangerous path. And everyone should have tantric sex. Krishna was a practitioner of Tantra. If you ask me which path of Tantra he practiced, I'll say Kapalika Tantra. So Tantra is not for the chicken-hearted souls. In our ancient lore, we have references about continents. This is from Vishnu Puran. We have listed 7 continents. Shalmiga, Plaksha, Jambudvipa. Jambudvipa is the Asian continent. Bharata Varsha is the Indian peninsula. Bharata Ganda is this particular land. And in this, it is Bharata Rashtra. So if you put a bindi, it's a tantric practice of activating your Ajna Chakra. There is only one knowledge in the world that can liberate you, that is spiritual knowledge.
Today we have a special guest who is a distinguished scholar and has extensive knowledge in the field of Tantra, especially Vijnan Bhairava Tantra and Kashmir Shaivism. Not just theoretically, but he is also a serious practitioner of Tantric meditations who has internal experience of many aspects which can enhance our lives. He has also authored numerous books and published various articles on these topics. He is also a prominent figure in the Malayalam film industry, known for his work as a scriptwriter, and his upcoming movie Kathanar is set to release soon. Me and Ankit had an opportunity to be a part of his workshop on Vijnan Bhairava Tantra, and the concepts that he spoke about was definitely mind-blowing. We are talking about Dr. R. Ramanand, and we are grateful to have him here in our studio at Social Vaani to share some of his knowledge with you all. This podcast is a series of 2 episodes, and we request you to sit back and consume everything that he's saying at your own pace. We promise you that you will take back something valuable at the end of this series. So let's begin. Welcome to the podcast, Ramji.
Namaste.
We've heard so much about you. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you with us. So I'd like to start off with the most basic but essential question. What is the meaning of Tantra?
That's a very inevitable question when we talk about Tantra. So most of the people kind to delve into the secrets of Tantra. Before that, we have to understand what is the meaning of Tantra. So Tantra has got a wide array of meanings. It's a spectrum of meanings, I would say. At the lower end, it can mean a loom. So the loom for weaving and all, right? Mm-hmm. It can mean army. It can mean corpus of knowledge. And in Indian musical instruments, also the musical instruments all over the world, we have string musical instruments, right? String is also known as Tantra, Tantri. Mm-hmm. So it's called as Tantri Vadya. So it can mean a string musical instrument. And a knowledge that helps us to do certain skillful things. So there are different meanings associated with Tantra. But when it comes to the spiritual meaning, Tantra is the knowledge which widens the horizon of our wisdom. Okay. So in Sanskrit it is called as Tanyade Vistarate Jnanam Anena Iti Tantram. There are other meanings also. Tanuna Trayate Iti Tantra. So when you ask what is the meaning of mantra, it's Manana Trayate Iti Mantra. Those which we can accomplish with the faculty of mind is called as mantra. Mm-hmm. So Tantra, on the other hand, is the knowledge, or we can say that those things which we can accomplish through the faculty of body. So body is very important in Tantra. Tanu is very important. When I learned Tantra, I was 14 years of age then. My master told me Tantra means Tantri. Tantri is string. Okay. The knowledge will make you like a tantri. In a tantri vadya, in a string instrument, you tie the string, and the more you fasten it, the nicer the music will come out.
Okay.
So it is the process of tightening the tantri. You are the tantri, and it is tightened using sadhana. I mean the practice. And it helps Parashakti to play you, and you will make nice music.
Very interesting.
So this is a parampara artha. Parampara artha means there are certain meanings which is only available in certain lineages. We cannot find it anywhere else. We cannot find it in scriptures, books and all. So when my master told me this, I was very small. Then later I started reading different meanings of Tantra. I never found this meaning anywhere. So I asked him, is it a what? He created one. The meaning is created by him or his master. So he told me this is the meaning our lineage holds. Later, many years later, I was doing a translation of Veena Shikha Tantra. It's a Vama Tantra, the left-hand path of Tantra, in the Shaiva Tantra corpus. In that, the meaning, the name of the text is Veena Shikha. Veena, it's a very popular musical instrument, very age-old musical instrument. Ma Saraswati holds it. At the Shikha of Veena, the head of Veena, is the place where you tighten the string. And it is Veena Shikha Tantra, where Tumburu Bhairava is a form of Shiva, assisted with his 4 sisters, Jaya, Vijaya, Achita and Aparachita. Mm-hmm. They are the retinue of him. And he holds a Veena. And the meaning actually illuminated inside me, what my master told me when I was very young. In Tantra, the meaning can vary according to traditions. So you cannot actually tell this is the particular meaning of Tantra.
Okay.
So when I started practicing Tantra, upon the guidance from my lineage, Guru Parampara, I found a different meaning for Tantra. That is, Tantra is the philosophy or practice which liberates us. So liberation, liberty in India is called as Swatantriya.
Yes.
When we celebrate Independence Day, we call it as Swatantriya Divas. So what is Swatantriya? It is a state of Swatantrahood. If you are Swatantra, and that state enjoyed by you is called as Swatantriya. Mm-hmm. Swatantra can be split into 2, Swa and Tantra. Swa is self, Tantra is technique. So in Tantra, there is always a hidden prefix to that is Swa. It is our own Tantra. We improvise the practice. We improvise the rituals. We improvise the tradition. All those things according to our needs. That is a Swa part of it. Instead of that, if we are copying it from another one, it will be a servile copying. And that is Paratantra.
Okay.
And Paratantriya means bondage in India. So Swatantra is the most beloved meaning I can suggest you if you want to know the meaning of Tantra.
Yes.
It's according to me.
This is a fresh perspective.
But I need to clarify one thing. When you use the word swa, that means the self, are you saying that we can improvise the practice based on my own understanding?
No, it's actually like in the present days we talk about flow state, right? When you deal with a philosophy, practice, rituals and all, after a point of time, you'll understand it in a better way. It's not like someone taught you. It's like your dynamic engagement with the topic. So that dynamic part is the most important thing in Tantra. So you should be very dynamic while doing the practice of Tantra. There is a lot of self-contemplation happening in between a practice and even in the japa, chanting, meditation, and even the puja rituals and all. So where you find the self of you getting involved with the rituals you are doing. It's not something you have learned from your master or anyone. It is your own perspective. In Tantra, we call it as Swataha. So there are three things in Tantra which we have to adhere upon. That is Swata, Guruta and Shastrata. Guruta is from my master, whatever I learned from my master. Shastrata is whatever I learned from the Shastras. The most important of these three are Swataha, the self. The understanding I get from the practice and how I see it and how I can build a perspective of my own around it. That's the important thing.
Yeah, but to an immature mind, that could be a little dangerous.
Yeah, for an immature mind, there's a definitely it's a very dangerous thing. That's why when we talk about Tantra, it is said that it is the most dangerous path. It's like walking on a razor's edge. You should be very careful, cautious, vigilant.
With the right guidance also.
Yeah, with the right guidance. And your intention should be pure. Because Tantra is a razor's edge. We call it as Asiddhara Vratam. Asiddhara Vratam means walking on a razor's edge in Sanskrit. So Tantra is a path with a lot of difficulties that can arise in between. There are a lot of dangers in that. And there are a lot of things that can allure you into carnal desires. There are a lot of things which can actually trouble the immature mind. That's why Guru is important and Shastra is important. So it's actually a triangulation. Swataha is like I got an intuitive knowledge about a certain thing and I have to check it with my master, and at the same time I have to triangulate it with my Shastra, scriptures. So if these three things come in alignment, which means you are in the right path.
But usually when we utter the word Tantra, there is a negative annotation to it. They say this is very tantric in nature, you should stay away from this. Can you clarify on this a little bit?
Yeah, so it's like it's a time for demystify Tantra, right? Mythbuster about Tantra. So fundamentally I have to tell you that when you talk about people are afraid to hear the word Tantra or to do the practice, and that fear is intentionally created. So Tantra is not for the chicken-hearted souls. So we call it as, even when you look at Devi in Lalita Sahasranama and all, you can see a particular name of Devi which talks about Pashu Loga Bhayangari. So in Tantra, people are categorized, sadhakas are categorized into three categories. One is Pashu, the lower one, with lower conscious level. Pashu can also mean animal. It's an animal conscious level. So for an animal, they can only be controlled using the basic instincts of them.
Yes.
Like that's how the classical conditioning works. Like how we treat the dogs, and there are certain things by which we can train them. Make them afraid of certain things. Make them want for food. Make them controlled. Like that. So this is the Pashu Bhava, which is called as a Pashu Bhumi. So those people who are only into eating, mating, sleeping and all the basic desires or basic instincts, Tantra is definitely a path that can make them afraid of, or that can make them scared of its deeds.
So you're saying it's not for them?
Yeah, no, it's not for them. It's for the Veeras. So even in Lalita Sahasrama we can see.
What do you mean, Veera?
Yeah, that's the second level. Veera is the one who has got a warrior mindset. He is getting out of fear. He is not bound by fear. Fear is not the one which makes him do certain things or do not make him do certain things. Like you just look at the depiction of goddess. Even it is Lalita Tripura Sundari or any other goddess. You will see two mudras. One is Abhaya Mudra and another is Varada Mudra. Abhaya Mudra means no fear. People think that Devi will help us. Devi is the final resort. That's why she is showing Abhaya. What is the meaning of it? The meaning of it is Abhaya, no fear. And next is Varada, blessing path. If you look at the orientation of these two hands, Abhaya Mudra is showing downwards and Varada Mudra is showing upwards. If you get out of the fear, which is in a lower level, you can actually rise up. So Devi is Pashu Loga Bhayangari. She creates bhaya. Bhairava creates bhaya, fear in the hearts of people, so that they are filtered. So if you want to practice Tantra, you have to get into the most horrendous form, if you look at it in that way. And finally, at a point, you will actually understand you are slowly moving from the Pashu Bhava to Veera Bhava. And Devi likes Veera Goshti Priya. Devi likes the act of Veeras.
So when you say Pashu Bhava, that means the basic instinct of food, sleep and reproduction to higher levels of consciousness.
Even you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can see the basic needs are in the lower stratum of the pyramid. And higher one is the self-esteem needs. So you can actually compare it with the Pashu, Veera and Divya Bhava. In Veera Bhava, you are ready to practice Tantra. And it's a path which can make you afraid at every corner during the tread. So if you want to tread on that path, you should need at least 3 lights. That is the light of Shastra, the light of self, and the light of Guru. Okay. Then you'll reach at a place which is called as Divya Bhava.
So on one hand, you're saying that we need to get trained or conquer our fears. But my observation shows that certain aspects of Tantra are a part of our day-to-day lives, consciously or unconsciously. It's a part of our culture. Is it true?
Yeah, that's true. People think that Tantra is something out there, but they are living every day a tantric life in India. So if you put a bindi, a tika, it's a tantric practice of activating your Ajna chakra, the third eye chakra. And if you do idol worship, that's a tantric way of doing that. If you do meditation, that's tantric. So even people who are against tantric practice in their day-to-day life are very much into tantric practices unknowingly, which means it's a pan-Indian philosophy and practice, but people are not knowing it in its right sense, and they think that it is something out of the box, antinomian, antisocial, or maybe alien.
Yeah, something only practice related to crematorial grounds.
So when we offer Aarti to, let's say, an idol, is that a tantric practice?
Yeah, it's a tantric practice. You are worshipping the Sakala form of a deity. The deity has got 2 forms, Nishkala form and Sakala form. Nishkala is the formless form, which you cannot address. You cannot visualize a formless form. Can you do that? No. Nobody can do that. If you have a mind, you cannot do that. Mm-hmm. You need certain details to understand what it is. So we are taking the form of deity, the formless form of deity, to a form, that is the Sakala form. That's an idol. And we are attributing all the qualities of the Nishkala to that Sakala. And we are doing Aarti, worshipping it. And that's a tantric practice.
Yeah, but I don't feel any fear doing that.
Yeah. In certain things, you might not feel fear. There are certain things, certain rites in Tantra, which can invoke fear in you. Like as she was talking about the crematorial practices. In certain sadhanas, example, Kali, Tara, Bhairavi, Chinnamasta for an extent, there are certain devatas, they need these crematorial practices. So people call it as necromancy. I don't prefer the word necromancy. People might call it as necrophilia. These are perversions, not tantric. For a sadhak, it is not like that. For a sadhak, Shmashan is the most energy neutral space. It's the most energy neutral space where you will not get affected by any abasarpagas, contrary to the popular belief. Abasarpagas means ghosts and ghouls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they will not. So that's a logical thing. Mm-hmm. Which ghost will stay in a crematorium? were they were burnt. Okay, and all those things. So that has a different meaning also. But it is the most energy neutral space where you deal with the concept or the higher form of worship. And it's not necromancy, but smashan sadhana. That's what. So this kind of practices makes you afraid. Because the fundamental fear of any being in the earth which has taken form, even it is for humans or other beings, it is a fear of death.
Yes.
So death is the most fearful thing. So somebody who is actually trying to deal with death makes that person also
People are scared of such people.
yeah, we are scared of such people. So that's what.
So these practices that you're saying, which are a part of our culture, are tuned in such a way to not be dangerous. But if you delve into other aspects of Tantra, it could be dangerous, is what you're saying.
Danger can happen in any level. So if you do an arati and you are not careful about that, the fire can catch you, right?
Yes.
Your dress can catch fire. You should be very vigilant while doing an arati itself, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So practices need certain levels. There are grades of it's a gradational what do you say, vigilance needed. Some needs lesser vigilance, some needs greater vigilance. So if you are dealing with something very powerful, very dangerous and all, you have to be much more vigilant, like that.
Okay.
So it's not like smashan sadhana is more dangerous than arati. Smashan sadhana might not kill you, arati may kill you, because if you are if you are not mindful. Yeah.
When we say the word Tantra, it is such a broad subject. But where did it all come from? What is the origin of Tantra?
To look at the origin of Tantra, to look at the origin of anything is in fact not an Indian way of looking at a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we never believed in the origin of anything.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it's anadi. Adi is origin, anadi is without origin. So in India, the understanding of time itself is different. Our understanding of time is very much influenced by the Western understanding of time. That is the linear pattern of time. So the linear pattern of time means between this year and between that year something happened. Like I can say BC 500 and AD 500. What happened between BC 500 and AD 500? So these are the 2 points, diachronic points. We can call it as diachronic history between 2 points. So whatever happens between this becomes the history. We never believed in that, because we always believed in the spiral nature of time. So our idea of time is connected to the Yuga Kalpana. We have 4 yugas: Satyuga, Treta, Dwapara and Kali. These are the 4 yugas. So what happens after Kali? It's not linearly progressed.
Correct.
After Kali, again Satya comes. So there's a beautiful story in Ramayana. May not be in the principal Ramayana, but it's a very popular story. Rama asked Hanuman to give message to Sita. So he was flying or jumping. Meanwhile, he lost the Mudra Modira, the identity ring, which Rama wanted him to show to Sita. That's how Sita will recognize Hanuman. Because Sita never knew who is coming, because Hanuman is going for the first time. So that was the first identity card. Okay, Hanuman lost it. And he dived into the ocean, the bed of the sea, and he could see many rings were lying on the sea floor, on the seabed. He got perplexed. He immediately remembered Rama, and Rama appeared in his vision. And he asked Rama, what kind of test is this? Somehow I missed the ring, and I'm seeing so many rings here.
Of the same kind.
Yeah, of the same kind. Which ring is the ring I lost? all were looking identical. So Rama said, these all are the rings you lost in the previous yugas while jumping to Lanka.
Oh.
Which gives us the sense of time. If you take it to the mundane level, this is not the first time we are doing the podcast. We've been doing this in all yugas like this, and I've been keep on telling the same story of Hanuman, like Hanuman lost the ring.
Okay.
So we kind of always believed in the gyre, the circular, or the spiral movement of time. If you go by that, we cannot find the origin of Tantra anywhere. We cannot situate. That's for any science in India. For example, Ayurveda. If you take Ayurveda as a corpus of medical knowledge, if you ask who created Ayurveda, there is no mention of the creation of Ayurveda in Ayurveda. It is said that Brahma Smritya Ayusho Veda. Brahma remembered the Veda of longevity.
Remembered.
Remembered means what? It was already there. It was always there, which is Chirantana, which is eternal. He can only remember that. It was always there.
Cannot invent it.
Yeah, you cannot invent it. Maybe discover it, but cannot invent it. So when you look at the traditional origin of Tantra, you can see Bhairava, from which Tantra came out. Like the universe came out. Universe was also not created in Hindu mythology or even the agamic sciences and all. It is said that so kamayadi bahusyam prajayate. I was desirous to I was desirous to evolve into universe, and I evolved into universe. This is the statement. Like that, Bhairavi wanted to get tantras out of Bhairava. So if you want to get something out of me as a knowledge, what will you do? You'll ask me questions, right?
Yes.
Like the same way, Bhairavi asked the first question about tantras, and he illuminated the tantras to her. And it is said that it is 9 crore mantras were there. We call it as Navakodi Vistara in Tantra. But when Bhairavi received it, it was only Ashtakodi Vistara. 1 crore was lost. Transmission loss. You know that, right?
Yes.
When I speak something, you'll understand some part of it. You'll miss some part of it.
Yes.
Right? And if you reproduce the same talk to someone else, he will miss some part of it. Like the transmission loss happens. So when Bhairavi received it, she got only Ashtakodi Vistara. She gave it to Swachandanada. And when Swachandanada is another form of Shiva, when he received it, it was only Saptagodi Vistara. And from Swachandanada, his consort, Aghoreshwari or Sagala Bhattariga received it. Then it became 6 crore mantras. Shatkodi Vistara. From Aghoreshwari, it went down to different people in the celestial realm. At the end, we can see in the celestial realm, it was received by Garuda, and from Garuda, Vasuki received it. When Ravan visited Kailash, he got it from Vasuki.
Okay.
By then, it was almost lost. Some part of it was only preserved. Very less. Ravana received a minuscule amount of Tantra from Vasuki. And Ravana took it down to earth. From Ravana, Vibhishana learned it. And Vibhishana went to Sri Rama. He changed his, in the present politics and all we talk
Party.
about, right? He changed the party. Okay. And he joined the alliance of Rama and Lakshmana. And he gave that knowledge to Rama. From Rama, Lakshmana received it. From Lakshmana, Siddhas received it. From Siddhas, Dhanavas received it. Dhanavas are Asuras. From Asuras, Guhyas received it, who are living in Patala, Guhya Loka.
Okay.
From Guhyas, Manavas received it. We received it.
Okay.
That's how Tantra was transmitted from Bhairava to Manavas. Till the end of Dwapara, this was the lineage of transmission. But by the end of Dwapara, Tantras were lost. Not lost, it went into incognito mode. People forgot about Tantra because of the Kali Yuga. Kali started and people forgot the self-realization technique.
At the end of Krishna's time.
Yeah, at the end of Krishna's time. Till Krishna, it was preserved. When Krishna left, the divine illumination was lost. And Krishna was a practitioner of Tantra. And it might be a controversy.
It's a controversy.
If you ask me which path of Tantra he practiced, I'll say Kapalika Tantra. Very much. And his connection to Dwaraka, Somnath and all. Okay. Somnatha was a temple of the Kapalikas who carried the skull. Okay. We'll talk about it later. Okay, Krishna definitely was a Kapalika. No doubt about it.
Okay.
You look at the practices of Krishna, you cannot find anything Vedic or Vaishnavik in that. It's all the Shakti Shaiva Tantras. And even Tantrics believe that Krishna is to Kali. Krishna is Kali herself. I'll leave that matter. We'll come to a point. So when Kali entered, Tantras were lost. So what happened was, Shiva, the ever compassionate one, wanted to re-illuminate it, rekindle the spirit of Tantra. So in Himalayas, he took the form of Sri Kandanatha. Sri Kandanatha is incarnation of Shiva. Through which he again started illuminating the Bhairava Tantras, Rudra Tantras and Shiva Tantras, which makes the whole corpus of Shaiva Tantras. Sri Kandanatha taught Tantra to his two disciples, Durvasa and Sanat Kumara. Sanat Kumara was not into propagating Tantras. He was into self-practice and he did so. Durvasa wanted to propagate it. So Durvasa, from his mind, created a mind-born son. He was not married. And also two more sons were created from the mind. They are Srinada and Amardhaga. To Trayambaka, he taught non-dualistic tantras. We call it as Bhairava Tantras. So all the Bhairava Tantras was taught to Trayambaka. These are the 64 Tantras. 64 very important Bhairava Tantras. Why is it called as non-dualistic? Because it makes you Shiva. Like Vijnana Bhairava Tantra talks about. Vijnana Bhairava Tantra is a technique that makes you Shiva. Not lesser to Shiva. Not a worshipper of Shiva. But Shiva himself. Okay. Shivatva, Bhairavatva is offered. These are the Bhairava Tantras. To Srinada, he gave Rudra Tantras. That is Beda Tantras. So for the first one, Bhairava Tantras is called as Abheda Tantras. To Srinada, it is Beda Tantra, which we can call it as mono-dualistic Tantras. I don't know how apt is the English translation for that, but still to understand. So mono-dualistic Tantras is Beda Tantras, where Shiva is there and I am there. And I am worshipping Shiva. I can look like Shiva. I can be like Shiva, but not Shiva. Got it? Still you are in the lesser level. That is the Beda Tantra. To another one, Amardhaga, he gave Shiva Tantras. Shiva Tantras. So Shiva Tantras is the dualistic Tantras. Beda Tantras. Where Shiva is distinct from you. Shiva is the Lord and you are his worshipper. Together, this Rudra Tantras and Shiva Tantras make Shaiva Siddhanta. And the Bhairava Tantras are there. So it was given to Trayambaka. Trayambaka created one mind-born son named Trayambakaditya and a daughter Ardha Trayambaka. And he gave non-dualistic Bhairava Tantras to both. So Ardha Trayambaka school of Tantra is again in an incognito mode, which is only taught by women. Women are only initiated into that. Okay. And it is said that it is lost now, but I don't think it is lost. It's a kind of Illuminati, which works in certain areas of India. Basically the Kangra area of India, the Jalandhara Pida, up to Haryana, Himachal and all that. There are Rahasya Yoginis, secret Yoginis who are in the Ardha Trayambaka school of thought. They initiate only women.
Okay.
It's like that movie, you remember that, Wonder Woman, something like that, I feel. And Trayambaka also practiced the Bhairava Tantras. Trayambaka created 15 mind-born sons and imparted this knowledge to them. 15th one was not capable to create mind-born son because as transmission laws, energy, power and all these things also get lost, right? So he married. He married from Kashmir. And a son was born to him. It's called as Sangamaditya. Sangamaditya married and he got a son called Arunaditya. Sangamaditya, Arunaditya, and from Arunaditya it went to Ananda. From Ananda to Somananda. Somananda to Utpala. Till Utpala or till Somananda, it was following father-son relationship. But from Utpala, it is Guru-Sishya relationship. The knowledge was transmitted as father, from father to his sons. But from Utpala, Somananda gave it to Utpala and he was not the son of Somananda but the Shishya. From Utpala, we can see it came down to Lakshmana Gupta and from Narasimha Gupta to Abhinava Gupta, from Abhinava Gupta to Kshemaraja, from Kshemaraja to Yogi Raja, and for a longer period it was again lost. And Swami Rama appeared in Himalayas. And from Swami Rama, it was again rekindled. From Swami Rama, it went to Mehtab Kag. From Mehtab Kag, it went to Swami Lakshmanju Maharaj, which makes him the last Shaiva master. And from Lakshmanju Maharaj, it went to Alexis Anderson. It went to Mark Diskowski. So from Shiva to America, it went. And now we are getting back from America to here. Like it's like a pizza effect. You know what is a pizza effect? Pizza was initially invented in Italy. Then people were not interested about that. Then it went to America. Then came back to Italy. Now it's very popular there. Like the Tantra was here. Then it went to America. Now it's coming from there. And people are interested in. I'm not joking because Oxford Center for Hindu Studies has a chair for Tantra. Hamburg University has a chair for Tantra. Most of the world renowned universities has chairs for Tantra. So when scholars who deal with this prestigious science comes with the scholarship and present paper, then it has got an academic glamour and people are drawn into that. I'm talking about the academic world, not about the popular Tantra practice and all. So that's the origin and the genesis and all. If you talk about the origin or genesis and the lineage of Tantra masters.
Wow.
So what is the significance of this lore? It could be mythical names, it could be stories, it could just be fiction. Somebody just said it as a story, as a teacher. What is the significance for me?
So when you look at the lineage of masters from Shiva to you, we just don't give names like that. So names have a philosophical meanings too. Like Sangamaditya, for example. Sangamaditya is born out of Sangama, of the last mind-born son and a lady. And Sangamaditya, Arunaditya, Varshaditya, I missed Varshaditya, Varshaditya, Ananda, Somananda. From Ananda, Somananda, we can see scriptures written by them. If you look at Somananda, we can see Shivadrishti written by Somananda. And later, when it comes to Utpala, we can see Pratibhijna philosophy in the self-recognition school of Tantra getting flourished. When you look at Vasugupta, you can see Shiva Sutras. So the validity of their existence is lying on the scriptures they have written. So that's our way of understanding they existed.
Okay.
That's the Indian way of understanding. So this person wrote this book, that's why. Like, for example, think of Kalidasa. Where will you historically place Kalidasa? Is there any historical reference for Kalidasa apart from his books? When you look at Abhijnana Shagundala or any books written by Kalidasa, that is the point where we understand these people existed. So it's not like they are mythical. They definitely existed. But some of them, the idea of their existence is not easily graspable to our logical mind.
For example,
The mind-bound sun.
Shiva.
Shiva is not. I mean, I'm not talking about Shiva. Shiva is it's a concept if you talk in that way. We are not talking about a sentient or a personal god Shiva. So in Tantra, Shiva has got an array of meanings. So it's not like we are not talking about a person. That's another thing. So which we talk about the supreme, absolute. Yeah.
So can we talk about the origins of Tantra from a perceivable history point of view? From what I know, we had the Mughals and then the Britishers, and now we have this independent India. How has Tantra survived this journey?
If you're asking me about the genesis of Tantra from a historical point of view and the development of it, we can see the perceivable history as you were talking about it, right? So the perceivable history of Indian civilization definitely starts from the excavations in Indus Valley.
Okay.
True. So we call it as Indus Valley civilization. It was in fact an accident because Britishers, mostly all the Europeans, they believed the cradle of civilization was always Greek and Rome. So they never believed something sophisticated existed out of Greece and Rome. So they came to evangelize or civilize the uncivilized pagans. It was called as the white man's burden. Okay. But when during a period when there was a lot of excavations happening in India, they happened to find some good bricks from the Ganga Valley. The banks of Ganga. So they found that these bricks will be there because there will be some people who made houses with bricks and all. So they found some good quality bricks and they thought that this is useful for the railway project going on then. Instead of baking bricks, it's better to excavate if there is an availability of that. So they accidentally found this and they started excavating. And they found in India in the Indian mythology, there is a mountain called as Mainaga, which hides in the sea. At times it comes out like a huge mountain. When Hanuman was jumping to Lanka, it came up like a 5-star facility hotel to allure him into that. Like that, and a hidden civilization came up, sprouted up from the mud. And they were surprised to see that. A city, you can call it Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Lothal, Kalibangan, and all the cities were perfectly made. Public administration, public engineering, right angle cutting roads, drainages, and all those things were examples of perfect town planning, which was a surprise for them. And they agreed in India during the olden days, there was a much civilized society who knew about public administration, public engineering, and all those things. But still they were not ready to accept there was something cultural in that until E.M. Hake found out the Indus Valley Seatite seal of Shiva. We call it as Pashupati Shiva. And the bull figurine, the Indus Valley bull seal. And the figurines of Matru Devatas, the female goddesses. And the Yoni figurines and phallic symbols, the Linga and Yoni. and the triangle altars, which was a shock to them, which exhumed a civilization and a culture which was well rooted in deeper philosophy and deeper religiosity and spirituality. So if you find this as an instance, historical instance where we can place the origin of Tantra, then it is in the Indus Valley, the fertility cult. And from that Indus Valley, this is an incessant flow of culture to the present moment. We call it as a perenniality of culture. It is perennial, like a Himalayan river. The fertility cult. That is the perceivable origin of Tantra. And we can see in the older Paleolithic age, we can see the Bagor sites where we could see tantric elements are there. So Tantra originated in a prehistoric time, if you want to go by the standards of history. So the first explanation I gave it was from the traditional point of view. But if you look at it in the point of history, there is a perceivable origin for Tantra, if you look at it. And the development of Tantra. So, if you ask about the development of Tantra, the ups and downs in Tantric history, for a historian, definitely they can find there were certain periods, for example, the Gupta Empire was a period where Tantra flourished a lot. Mm-hmm. That makes some historians and scholars think Tantra originated then. Because most of the writings were made during the Gupta Empire, the first millenniums. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see it in a different light. Tantra is related to Kula. Mm-hmm. Kula means ku liyate. Ku means earth. Liyate means hidden. Something which is hidden in the earth is called as Kula. So what is hidden in the earth? It is the fertility. You cannot see that. You can only experience it. If a tree flourishes, which is a sign the soil is fertile. So fertility you cannot see, but it can be manifested. So Kula is that. And Kula Devada is a sign of that. You cannot see her, but if your family flourish, which means Kula Devada is there, strong. So that's how we connect the human fecundity, human creativity, and the soil fertility to the Kula Devada. Kula also means family, clan. So in Tantra, when you look at the Dasha Mahavidyas, which was a later thing according to the foreign scholars, definitely the arrangements of these 10 cosmic goddesses, powers, from Kali to Kamala, Kali, Tara, Bhairavi, Bhuvaneshwari, Shodashi, Bagalamukhi, Chinnamasta, Dhumavati, Matanki, and Kamala. The 10 great cosmic powers. Definitely the arrangement of them into a pack of 10 may be a later thing, but it doesn't mean that they existed before. So these
doesn't mean that it did not exist before.
Yeah, doesn't mean that they didn't exist before. So if you look at the older text Mandhana Bhairava Tantram, Kumari Kanda, where you can see the references of Matangi, but a different depiction from the popular Matangi depictions today. And there are references of these deities in different tantric texts, at least as independent deities. But definitely we can say that together they were grouped into 10, maybe a later thing, so that people think that this Mahavidyas are a 14th century thing. That's a different thing. No, I'm just making it clear, because when I talk about Dash Mahavidya and prehistoric history of India, people might ask that or may question that Dash Mahavidya's cult started existing after 14th century. So I'm just making it clear. That's why. So in Dash Mahavidyas, if you look at 3 principal deities, all of them are principal deities, but the popular ones, we can see Sri, that is Shodashi. Sri is Shodashi. Another is Kali. And another is Tara. These three are very prominent deities, which continues to exist and very popular all over India and I think all over the world. So for these three deities, we can see kulas connected to them, clans connected to them. There are clans. In the normal terms, when you talk about family and clans, they are bound by filial relationships or blood relationships, right?
Correct.
But in Kula, they are not bound by blood relationship, but bound by the deity. For example, you talk about Guru Kula. Guru Kula, the Kula of Guru. You may not be from the same family, but you belong to the family of Guru.
Yes.
The Gurutva, the love to Guru, is the thread which connects you all. Same way, the deity is in the central point here. And she is the point where you anchor. And she is the anchorage in that. So here, there's some in Sri Kula, Sri Vidya is the central point. And in Kali Kula, Kali is the central point. And the clans worship Kali. And the clans worship Sri. And clans worship Tara. So as you were interested in the perceivable history and the development of Tantra, or the changes in Tantra, my point is that India's history was always influenced by Tantra. And it will continue to influence the history of Tantra. That's what I want to make this point very clear. So during the Gupta Empire started by Sri Gupta, like that, which is in the first centuries of Common Era. The most famous of them was Chandragupta II. We call him Vikramaditya. He may be the legendary Vikramaditya or the historical Vikramaditya. We call him Chandragupta II. We call him Vikramaditya. Vikramaditya is supposed to be the king of kings, Chakravarti. Vikramaditya was a king who was very much into Sri Kula, worship of Sri. There is a Sri Chakra worship by him also. So he worshipped or invoked Sri. Sri also means wealth, which is supposed to be the golden era in Indian history. I think you might have learned it in schools.
Yes.
Which is the golden epoch in Indian history. People will say that it was the Gupta Empire.
We learned only 2 lines about it.
Yeah. It was the most prosperous age in India's history. We amassed wealth. Fahian, a Chinese traveler, traveled to India. He wrote a lot about India during the Gupta Empire. His writings inspired travels all over the world to travel to India. Later, when you see Huan Sang coming, look at Marco Polo, so many people, travelers, who fascinated by the writings of Fahian. Because when he reached India, it was all flourished with knowledge, power, wealth and everything. But after Vikramaditya, we can see a diminishing trend of Indian kings and kingdoms. What you can see after Vikramaditya, we can see Harshavardhana coming into the power. And Huan Sang coming to visit India, learning from Fahian. India is a great place to live. But Huan Sang was robbed by people in India. It was not as nice as Fahian wrote. Harsha was limited to north of India only by the powerful king Pulikeshin in the south.
Yes.
And India was literally divided into 2. Narmada Treaty was there. Beyond Narmada, Harsha was not allowed to enter by Pulikeshin. India was literally divided into 2. That was the first division happened in India as a nation. So, when you look at Vikramaditya, he is called as Chakravarti. there's a name. We call emperors Chakravarti, Ashoka Chakravarti, Vikramaditya Chakravarti. The real meaning of Chakravarti is that the one who resides in Chakra. Here the Chakra is Sri Chakra. Here the Chakra is Sri Chakra. So he resided in Sri Chakra, which means he was a practitioner of
Sri Vidya.
Sri Vidya. And that was the period where India flourished with Sri Kula. And after that, after Harsha's period, you know what happened in history. We fell into the arms of invaders. Turks attacked us, Huns attacked us, Kushans attacked us. Kushan attack was successfully prevented by Vikramaditya earlier. Shakas, he is called as Shaka Adi Vikramaditya. So, a lot of things happened in India after that. And it culminated in the most monstrous power in the history, that is British. And it started ruling India. We lost our sovereignty. The loss of sovereignty comes with the lack of sadhana.
Okay.
Because sadhana, when you were talking about Pashutva and Veeratva, Devi is called as Viyat Prasu. She gives birth to Veeras, warriors. If she is not invoked, we cannot be a warrior. So the sadhana was lost. And what happened was, we lost our agility, prowess to fight back, to get our sovereignty back. And what is the result? If you lose your agility, if you lose your valor, anyone can rob you, right?
Yes.
Britishers robbed us. And that was the loot of our economy. Dadabhai Navroji writes about poverty and un-British rule in India. We were literally robbed by Britishers. Before Britishers came, it was said that 27% of the world GDP was contributed by India. By the time British left, it was only 1%. That much wealth was looted within a span of 200 years. And that was a period yogis decided to invoke power. Vikramaditya invoked wealth, and we lost power and we lost wealth. So in order to bring back the wealth and in order to protect India, Bharata, yogis tried to invoke or decided to invoke Kali, the Kali Kula. And if you look at, even in the present days, if you look at Kali, Bengal is the place where Kali is worshipped as the Dakshina Kali. She's called as Dakshina Kali because her right leg is on top of Shiva's chest. Hence she is called as Dakshina Kali. There is Vama Kali also. Left leg is on top of.
Okay.
But Dakshina Kali is the most popular one. And if you ask about the Kali, Dakshina Kali, you can see that Dakshina Kali is mostly associated with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. The moment you think about Kali in
Ramakrishna.
India, Ramakrishna will come to your mind. The mother of Ramakrishna, the dark mother of Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna was the one who invoked Kali in that manner. We will never see Ramakrishna as a very prominent figure in India's independence movement.
Yes.
Nobody considers him as a freedom fighter, do you? But I do.
Okay.
Because he was the one from whom the power started getting into a form, in the form of the Mother Devata, the feminine force. See, till 1857, the first struggle for independence, it was not a coordinated effort. It was not at all a coordinated effort. And that's why we lost it. But after 1857, Ramakrishna's birth was supposed to be in 1836. I think 1836. From the very young age, he got into Kali. And he literally materialized Kali, the power. From him, Vivekananda got the impetus. He went to West. He talked about India. That was a period where Indians were ashamed of our own self. We were ashamed to talk about our Indianness. We tried to mimic Britishers. We tried to become brown Englishmen as part of Macaulay's plan. Vivekananda was the first one to shake it and get us out of the shackles of this English education and British line of thinking, European line of thinking. And from him, the independence struggle of India took a new phase. The revolutionary movements in Bengal. Look at Surya Sen, Rash Bihari Bose, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Maharshi Aurobindo, the revolutionary later turned to mystic. All of them are talking about Matru Shakti. And we can see Bankim Chandra Chatterjee in his Anantamat singing Vande Mataram. And in Vande Mataram, you see the Kali of Bengal taking the form of Bharat Mata.
So you're saying Bharat Mata is Kali?
Bharat Mata is Kali. Bharat Mata is Kali. Kali was invoked during the independence period. And Kali Kula was invoked again in the history. But nobody sees it as a spiritual movement. India's independence movement was never a political movement, but a spiritual movement to reclaim our selfhood and identity. There were other freedom movements. The Irish freedom movements were there. So many freedom movements all over. The American independence movement were there. So many things were there happening around the world. But India's freedom struggle stands apart because of its spiritual quotient that is indeed rooted in the Tantra sadhana. So Tantra influenced even in getting freedom for this country.
Wow.
That is there. That's the hidden part of it. And this is the time. So Sri Kula is invoked during the Gupta period. We amassed wealth, we lost wealth, and we lost power. And Kali Kula was invoked and we regained power. And this is the time. This is a particular juncture in the history where we are in the verge of invoking Tara Kula. Or I would say it is already invoked. And it started with Corona. If Kali is for power and Sri is for wealth, Tara is for knowledge and compassion.
Okay.
We start talking about Vishwa Gurutva. We are becoming Vishwa Guru. Guru is not a teacher who can teach you anything, physics, chemistry, biology or anything. India is becoming an educational hub now. That's another thing. But we talk about not Vishwa teacher, Vishwa Adhyabhaga. We talk about Vishwa Guru. Guru is the one which removes the avidya from your eyes and liberates you. There is only one knowledge in the world that can liberate you, that is spiritual knowledge. So India is going to rule the world with its spirituality, not by its might and compassion. Look at the example of COVID vaccine war. When fourth world countries, third world countries were suffering with corona, no first world country came to help them. They had everything, technology, money, power, infrastructure, everything. They've got everything. America didn't come to help them. No countries in Europe came to help them. The third world country, which they claim India is, came to help them. We supplied medicines free of cost to the countries, to the suffering countries. India can only do that because it is bound by the values of Indian spirituality. That's where we see Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. And I find it the invocation of Tara Kula. Because Tara is the ever compassionate one. She's the mother. She cannot let any kid suffer. And India has already achieved that form of Mother Tara. And from Lalita, we can call it as Lakshmi. And Kali as Durga. and Tara is Saraswati.
Okay.
Then it becomes Trikula.
Wow.
In the last one, in Tara, Sri and Kali merges. In the yogic lore, we can talk about Ida Pingala and Sushumna. And it is combined in Tara. Icha, Jnana and Kriya. Icha, Kriya, Jnana are there. Icha and Kriya combines to form Jnana. That's how we are going to become the Vishwaguru. And I don't think that we have to become Vishwaguru. We are already Vishwaguru by this time.
So can you elaborate on these terms, Icha, Jnana, Kriya?
So in Tantra, Icha means willpower. Kriya means action. And Jnana is knowledge. This is different from desire, limited action, and limited knowledge. When I talk about knowledge, I am knowledgeable about a particular thing, which means I am not knowledgeable about a lot of things. I know certain things only, which means my knowledge is limited to a particular thing. There is a larger area external to that,
I don't know.
which I don't know. For example, I can ask you to do a mental thought experiment. Okay?
Okay.
Think of a circle.
Yes.
You can think of a circle, right? Is the circle existing independently or is it existing in a space?
In a space.
In a space. Did I ask you to think about a space? I only asked you to think about the circle. That is a non-area. But it is existing in a space. I didn't ask you to visualize a space. Your mind is telling your known area is the circle. There is an unknown area which is vaster than this.
Right.
And knowledge is knowing the unknown vast areas too. That is omniscience. Lord is
That
equipped with omniscience.
That is unlimited.
Unlimited. It's unlimited knowledge. Whatever we talk about knowledge is the limited version of knowledge. Here, knowledge, jnana means unlimited knowledge. Icha, on the other hand, normally we talk about people who are very having very much willpower and all. With his willpower, he did this. Nobody in the earth has willpower. They are all desirous. They can have ambitions, desires. If they had willpower, they might not need the help of anyone to make it done. Like in the Bible, there is a quote, like, let there be light. There was light. God just have to think about light and utter it, tatastu. And light came into existence. Can we do that with our willpower? No. If you want light, we have to do the electrification, you have to get the current connection, you have to get the lights, so many things. And you need a lot of people to help you to get it done. So it's not willpower. Still, it cannot happen. Even all the things, money, people, everything is in your hand, is on your side, it may not happen. But if you are willful, or if you are having the willpower, the moment you utter a word, it should happen. That is icha. And action, on the other hand, kriya, we talk about limited action. If you say, I can do this, which means I can do this only. I cannot do many things. But action, kriya, in the divine realm means God is capable of everything. Omnipotence. So it is omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. He is all powerful, all knowing, and all willful. This is the. Yeah.
So Ramji, there is a popular belief that the Britishers put this country together. Before this, there was no country or a nation. So is it true that the Britishers put Bharat together?
I know where this question is coming from. because when I was talking about India or Bharat getting divided into two after the Narmada, the fight between, the skirmish between Pulikeshin and Harsha, everyone will think that India was divided into different principalities, principal kingdoms, 600 plus, it is said that. And British came and annexed and created India. This is it, what we learned. Or this is it, what is propagated. Okay. So, the idea or the notion of our nation is much, much, much older than the idea of nation state. Nation state is a product of Industrial Revolution, which happened in Europe. So almost all the nation states in Europe were created after this. But in India or in Eastern region, the idea of nation is not nation state, but a spiritually and culturally connected landmass with people following the spiritual and cultural codes and practices that defines our nation. The notion of our nation, we can find it in the oldest textbook of humankind, that are Vedas. So the idea of nation is a Vedic concept. The idea of nation in Tantras is very well connected to the placement of Shaktipedas in it. We have 51 Shaktipedas where we worship Mother Kali or the goddess. Different body parts of the goddess fell after the Shiva Sati incident. You know that story. And everyone knows that story. So if you connect the southernmost Nilayatakshi Kovil to the northernmost Sharda and the easternmost Dhaka to the westernmost Hingala, you'll get the spiritual map of India, which is akin to the political map of India.
And this is age old.
This is much, much, much older. So to reclaim the landmass, there was a struggle. There was a movement. We call it as our freedom struggle and we call it as our independence movement. That's why I was making the point clear. India's freedom struggle was not a political movement, but a movement to reclaim our lost selfhood, which is our cultural unity. And the hoax around India being created by British in 1600 I think, 1600, English East India Company was formed. They didn't travel to India then. If they created India, why did they name their company East India Company? So this English East India Company, which means India was before East India Company existed. Even the name India itself.
Yes.
Even the idea of the nation itself. Definitely we were having several kingdoms, but we were always a nation. And the idea of nation is not about single government, single administration. No. We were ruled by only one thing that is called as dharma. Any king in India during the olden times, who, when during the time of enthronement, the master comes to the disciple, that is the supposed the newly enthroned king. So in olden times, judiciary, executive and legislature was vested in king. It was not separated. Right? In democracy only, we have the three pillars, which is vested in people. But it was only vested in king during the time in the olden times. The master comes to the king and he says, the king punishes everyone. It's not punishes, shasayati. King rules everyone. And with a stack, he'll beat the king symbolically and says, Dharma punishes the king. Not punishes, shasayati again. Dharma rules the king. King rules everyone and Dharma rules the king. Which was all over Bharatavarsha. So if a king from Pataliputra is beaten by the stack, the shaft, the symbolic shaft which represents Dharma Dand, Dharma, and a king from Odisha, Kalinga, and a king from the down south, Pandya, and a king from up north, Himalayas, and a king from Gandhara, getting same lashes of the Dharma Danda, which means on top of all the kings, it was Dharma which rules. So it is Dharma which rules the nation, not kings.
So these kings identified themselves in nation which is referred as Bharat.
Yeah. Bharat.
So what is the history of this word Bharat?
Bharat is a very age-old name. The meaning of Bharat is much more important than the history of Bharat. Bharat means the landmass where people rejoice in light. Bhas is light. Ratha is rejoicement. So what light is that? The light of self-realization. So the landmass where people enjoy the light of self-realization is called as Bharat.
But that could be somewhere in America also.
Yeah, I'll talk about it. Wherever people rejoice in the light of self-realization, we can call it Bharat. But it's not happening anywhere. That's another thing. So that's what Bharat is not a political or geographically bound spatial concept. It's an idea. It's indeed an idea where we found the canvas to draw that idea in this landmass. That's the important thing. So when it comes to the origin of the word, it is said that Bharata ruled Bharata. So since Bharata, the prince of Dushyanta, you know that. From him we got the name Bharata because he ruled this country. But more than that, I would like to stick to the meaning of it, Bharata. And we, in our ancient lore, have references about continents, oceans. We have listed 7 continents. Shalmiga, Plaksha, Jambudvipa, like that. We have mentions about them. And Asia is called as Jambudvipa. Jambudvipa is the Asian continent. Bharata Varsha is the Indian peninsula. Bharata Ganda is this particular land. And in this, it is Bharata Rashtra, which is defined Asetu Himachalam. Asindo Sindhu Paryanta Yasya Bharata Bhumika. From Sindhu to Sindhu. Asetu Himachalam. From Setu of Rama, the down south, Rameshwara, to Himalaya, we call it as our homeland. So the land is spatially also defined, but more than the spatial definition or geographical definition, I would call it as an idea, a lofty idea. If someone can copy that idea and make some Rashtra Bharat, we'll be happy. That's why I'm just answering your question. That can be in America also. If they can take the idea of Bharat and apply there and make the people rejoice in the light of self-realization, enlightenment, we can call it Bharat too. So Bharat is not a spatio-temporal idea, which is much, much, much beyond any spatio-temporalities.
So you're saying that the nation always existed in people's mind, in other people's mind, the foreigners' mind, but we've been taught that the British has put us together.
True. That's how they... See, I was talking about we lost our sovereignty, right? How will you lose your sovereignty? How will you lose your selfhood? When you start doubting about your own existence. If your stories are ill represented, these all are stories, right? Family is a story. Society is a story. Nation is a big story. If someone starts manipulating that stories, like Benokri said, if you have to kill a nation, poison their stories. They poisoned our stories. They poisoned our very belief of the Rashtra and started propagating this was created by them, which is still there. People think so. There are people who think so. We are not a nation.
So their idea of nation is the nation that we see today. That means there is an army, there's a constitution and so on.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. Our idea of nation is not limited to administration. If it is administration, we are talking about an administration done by dharma. We call it as Ritam Bhara. Governed by Ritam. Ritam is truth. Ritam is dharma.
Where all the people of certain area follow certain values, similar values.
There will be differences in practices, but the core is the same.
Intention is the same.
Intention, core of the practice is same.
So when you mention about Tara, you say this is the time for Tara. So we remember that His Holiness Dalai Lama during the Corona times gave us some guidance about this Devi. Can you talk about that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Can you talk about it?
So when Corona started, I remember that His Holiness Dalai Lama asked his followers to chant Tara mantra. Om Tara Tu Tare Ture Swaha. That was the mantra. To get out of this epidemic. Then it was not epidemic. Then it was just starting and it was kind of getting into that form. But he imparted this mantra. Before that, I think 4 years before we were doing this Tara mantra. We are around 54 people, do Tara Japa every day, and we have a Japa bank.
What is a Japa bank?
Japa bank is every month end they have to update how many times they have chanted Tara.
Okay.
So some are crorepatис. That's their bank balance. And we used to give loans from this Japa bank. You know that?
How is that?
If somebody needs something in their life, I mean, if they are going through some difficult phase and all, they can apply loan in our bank.
Japa loan.
Japa loan. So he'll ask for 10,000 Japa loan. We'll give them 10,000 Japa loan. And he has to repay it with interest. Chant it and give it back.
Give it back.
So this is maintained. For the last 5 years, we are having a Japa bank. Continuously, they are chanting Tara. The same mantra was given by Dalai Lama, which is very much popular in Buddhist laws and all. But I was very curious to see why he gave Tara mantra. Definitely Tara is the principal deity in Buddhism. They all fall for Tara. That's another thing. But why particularly Tara? It can be Vajra Yogini or anything. Then I found the answer. Corona time was a test for entire humanity to see how compassionate are them towards another. And we proved it. That was a test on humanity. And I don't know how many of the audience will accept this or agree to my point. I personally believe Corona time was a shift in human history, human consciousness.
Definitely so.
We have become more oriented towards spiritual things all over the world. Very well rooted after that. It was a hit on us, on our material culture. And even you are materialistic. You start finding a rhythm in that. I'm not talking about the entire humanity. I'm talking about a large portion of humanity has transformed, has elevated after Corona. I have personally seen that. And I feel it's because of Tara. The elevation happened. And it was her wish or her decision to get it done through His Holiness, I think. That's why he uttered that. Definitely it is not particularly to Buddhist. And definitely he is not respected by Buddhists alone. Definitely he cuts across nations, borders, cultures and civilizations. His Holiness Dalai Lama. So that's an influential voice, which I think people followed it.
So are these generally secretive practices?
Yeah, these are very secretive practice. Especially Tara. Tara is a very secretive practice. Even in Buddhism, it's very secretive. There are certain mantras which we can give to people. There are certain mantras we try to hold to us only. We call it as Abad Dharma, the act of Dalai Lama. Giving a secret mantra to chant as an initiation like that. This is Abad Dharma. During the time of emergency, you use the most efficient weapon. Although it is supposed to be hidden or kept inside or protected, I think he just followed the Abad Dharma.
Why is it kept a secret?
Because it's meant for people to raise their consciousness level to a higher level if they are very much rooted in the spirituality. Otherwise, it won't make any difference to them. So a normal person receiving Tara and a spiritually inclined person receiving Tara is different. It's going to act very fast. So if your mindset is already plowed with spiritual ideas and it is fertile for the Tara seed to grow, it will grow very fast. And it needs a lot of practice, sadhana, in Hindu and Buddhist tantras. But during the time of Corona, it happened naturally.
Yes.
It was a testing period.
Yeah.
Their mind was plowed, was torn apart. Each one of us were thirsty to get a drop of compassion.
Yes.
And she showered it.
And people were naturally very receptive during that time.
Yeah, very much, very much. I have a lot of personal experience during the time of Corona.
So you just touched upon this topic, sadhana. What is the meaning of this word, sadhana? Is it like prayer? What is the difference between prayer and sadhana? Can you elaborate on that?
So when we talk about sadhana and prayer, in prayer, you have something up above you to be pleased. So prayer is an action. In fact, it's not an action, it's a prayer. It's asking the other to take an action.
Yes. Asking for something.
Yeah, the other is supreme. And we are servile. The servility is the main emotion reflected in a prayer. Dasa bhava. Please do this for me. That's a way of spiritual practice that's different.
Prayer can also be something like compassion. Thank you for this, thank you for that.
That's gratitude. I'm particularly talking about prayer. You pray to a deity and all. You are in a lower position and deity is standing up and you are praying to the deity to receive blessings. But in sadhana, you are not in the lower position. Deity is not in the higher position. It's like a love relationship. There is an equality. And the things we do is in a perfect harmony. There is no receptor or there is no transmitter. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's like wooing another one. It's a love relationship. I call it as a love affair. Sadhana is a love affair. Prayer is a plea. So these two are different. In sadhana, there is an action from your side. It's not waiting the other to act. And you are trying to understand the potential powers within you, not attributing it to something. So sadhana is more internal, where prayer is more external.
I think in prayer, once the plea is answered, then we may say thank you. But there is a plea before.
True. It's a plea.
So there are a lot of people who do sadhana. There is a desire to do sadhana. But one of the most common problems is inconsistency. So why is this a problem? What is this difficulty that we face?
Can you also elaborate a little bit in terms of what are the different types of sadhana? Something could be sadhana for me, somebody else is doing something else. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So the first question regarding the difficulties in sadhana, inconsistency. That's the first difficulty. There are a lot of difficulties which Patanjali talks about in yoga sadhana. If you take it as a standard. Samshayam, pramadam, alasyam, avirati, alabdhabhumigatvam. So many things are there. Samshaya is doubt. I start a sadhana and I am doubtful. Is it the right sadhana or will it give fruit? Can I do it in the right way? Is my master a right person? So many things. This can be a hurdle in the path of sadhana. So in Lalita Sahasranama, when you see, there is a nama called Samshayagni. Nissamshaya Samshayagni. Nissamshaya is Devi is without any doubt. If you are into Devi, she will make you a person without any doubt. Samshayagni, she will vanquish all the doubts in you. So to get out of samshaya, we have to do sadhana more deliberately and diligently. Another is alasya, laziness. For that also, you have to take the action from your side. And alabdha bhumigata, inconsistency. That's another thing. To get inconsistent in sadhana is a very normal thing. That's considered as the first hurdle. Everyone who is getting into sadhana, they'll be very happy to start sadhana and midway they will lose interest. They'll start doubting or they'll become inconsistent. For that, you have to be very careful and practice certain things which are prescribed in tantras and all to get out of this. So if someone asks me personally this is the problem, I can tell them this is the solution for that. So this is the way. So being inconsistent in sadhana, being doubtful in sadhana, and all these things we think that are the act of Satan. There is no Satan in Hinduism.
Okay.
There is no Satan. There is nothing which can stop you doing this. Then who is stopping this?
Us.
No, it is Devi.
Oh.
Devi herself is stopping us to don't do sadhana.
Mm-hmm.
We are stopped by Devi herself. Why?
We're doing sadhana for Devi and Devi is stopping us
Devi
from
is
doing.
Because in the larger realm of Shaiva tantras and all, I was talking about Pati Bhumi and Pashu Bhumi. We are in the Pashu Bhumi and Shiva is in the Pati Bhumi. Who are us?
Pashu Bhumi means
Pashu Bhumi is the lower consciousness, the animal state Pashu means the one who is bonded by Maya. So it's the bondage soul. So bondage is Maya and the bounded one is us and unbound is Shiva. Then who is us? I mean, when we talk about the reality of us is the unbound Shiva. But we are playing the form of a bonded soul in the form of Pashu. So Shiva wanted to play this role because he wanted to experience the world which evolved out of him, to enjoy the unbounded nature.
By being bounded.
Yeah, by being bounded. Like that. If it is staunch dark here and you put on lights, oh, you'll feel happy. Okay. If it's always lit up, I mean, you'll not feel the difference. Right? And Shiva asked Shakti, will you help me to play the role of Pashu? She said, yes, I am your partner. I am ready to help you. And she took the form of Maya. Maya means miyate iti Maya. Miyate means to measure. So Maya is the one which makes Shiva into a measurable soul. Unbounded one becomes a bounded one through the bondage. That's how Shiva became a measurable one. Got it? Immeasurable became measurable. Shiva has got immeasurable perception of sound. Shabda is perceived without any limitation. When he becomes Pashu, for example, if you take an example of human being, we can only receive sounds between the frequency of 20 decibel and 20,000 hertz. We cannot hear supersonic and we cannot hear infrasonic. My unlimited perception of sight is limited to 7 colors. My unlimited tactile ability is limited to limited tactile ability. My unlimited olfactory ability is limited to limited olfactory ability. My unlimited taste is limited to shadrasas. And that's how we became Purusha.
human.
Purusha means the one who resides in the body. Pura is city of body. Isha, the one who resides in Pura, the Isha who resides in Pura means Purusha. It's not male in Tantras. So Shakti is playing the role of Maya. He is helping us to play this. We call it suffering. In Tantra, we don't call it suffering. We call it Leela. This is all Leela.
Maya is Leela.
Yeah, Maya is making us play this Leela. She's the co-player. So even if you want to get out of this, she's not letting us to get out of it. She's asking us to enjoy this maximum. All the worldly tribulations, turbulence, happiness, sorrow, pain, agony, anxiety, curiosity, anything is Leela. We want to get out of it and we want to do sadhana. Because through Maya only we can go back to Shivahood. So sadhana is taking hold of Shakti. Now Shakti is taking hold of us. And we have to take hold of Shakti and get back to the Shivahood. And Shakti doesn't want us to do that. Because she is also enjoying the game of this. For that, hurdles are created in the path of sadhana. To make Shiva enjoy Purushatva in the way he wants to do that. When you get out of it, when you are done with the worldly things, the Vairagya happens. Maya also stops playing. Then you are taken to
Shivahood.
Shivahood. Patanjali rightly puts it. Abhyasa vairagya abhyam tan nirodha. Abhyasa is practice. Vairagya is detachment. Through the practice of practice and detachment. Or we can say practicing detachment. It can be ceased. The cessation will happen of all the inconsistencies and all. So which needs diligent and deliberate attempt from the part of sadhaka. He also needs the blessings from the parampara and his guru, kripa, and the deity. So that's it.
So you're saying detachment is necessary to reach Shiva, but I see a lot of people who are practicing Tantra are indulging in their material pleasures. Is that contradictory in nature?
So detachment in Tantra, when I talked about Vairagya, there are two notions of detachment. One is a very Vedantic notion of detachment. So these are two streams of ideas, where one accepts the world and one rejects the world. In Tantras also, we can see these two streams. The one who accepts the world, the Mantramargis. The ones, those who rejects the world, the Atimargis, the transgressive path. In Vedanta, it's mostly the transgressive one. They are not bound by societal things. And which is preaching Vairagya, get out of the things and all. But for us, Tantrics, basically Mantramargis, we have received or we have accepted the world in its full form, in its full fledged, we can say. So, a Mantramargi, Bhairava Tantra, who practices Bhairava Tantra, is supposed to indulge in all the worldly activities. World is not separate from Shiva for him. World is Shiva Shaktyatmakam, Nada Binduatmakam. There is nothing wrong in engaging with world for a Tantric. I am talking about Mantramargis. We should not confuse it with Vedantic understanding. Mm-hmm. So we are indulging or accepting the world as it is. At the same time, we are very much aware that we are not bound in this world. So it's like water on lotus leaf, which will not stick to the lotus leaf, right? The water droplets will not stick to the lotus leaf. Like that, world is just flowing and it's not getting, or we are not getting stick to that. So this is the idea.
So is that the reason why people are getting attracted to Tantra? Because you can enjoy, it gives you the freedom to indulge more in the material world?
Enjoying the material world is considered to be a sin. True. Abrahamic religions, Vedanta, so many philosophies all over the world has taught people that enjoyment is something sinful.
To be guilty of.
To be guilty of. Okay. So if someone enjoys the world, it's PT. I call it as Christian PT. The idea of PT was circulated by Christianity. And whole of the globe was once ruled by Christianity in the form of British Empire. So they propagated the idea of PT. And people became sin conscious. Not guilt conscious, sin conscious I'll call. And they need some philosophy to justify their needs. And they found that in Tantra. That is different. Mm-hmm. Tantra is not something which makes you do anything and to cover your sin conscious, you can use Tantra as a guard. It's not like that. Tantra indeed makes you a person with awareness. You cannot do anything when you are a Tantric. The moment you do something, it needs a validation from your own self. There is no one else there. Like the God is watching your acts. There is no God watching your deeds. But the powerful one is your consciousness, is your conscience. Your conscience is the one who is watching. If you can you convince your conscience while doing an act, you are a tantric. It's not that you do something mindlessly and take the god of Tantra as a shield. Okay, I am a tantric, I can do this. No. Tantra won't allow it. Tantra won't call it as a tantric method.
Speaking in these lines, when people think of Tantra, one of the things that pops out is tantric sex. And there are certain people who indulge in their compulsions using Tantra as an excuse. So, can you give us some clarity on what is tantric sex?
Whenever someone talks about Tantra, tantric sex comes into the picture. So, it has become an inevitable topic these days, right? Tantra is a philosophy of life. So, definitely sex is the part of life. So, Tantra deals with sex too. But the notion is Tantra is an erotic cult. That is wrong. I'll tell why is it wrong. But whenever someone replies this question, answers this question, or responds to this question, they'll take this question as a very negative question, right? They are not ready to associate Tantra with tantric sex. Because they think that that's a misrepresentation of Tantra. Definitely it is. But I'd like to take it in a very positive way. Tantric sex becomes a very bad concept when it is combined with the market. If you are selling Tantra in the name of tantric sex, because sex is the most sellable good, right? The moment someone utters sex, then definitely you get others' attention, right? So sex is the most sellable good, and if it is tantric sex, it becomes an exotic sex, and Tantra becomes a sellable good because of. Then it is a bad thing. Then it's a deplorable state. Then it is the most deplorable state can happen to any philosophy which has these lofty ideas of life. Reducing Tantra to tantric sex. Then it's a bad concept. Apart from that, cutting market from tantric sex, let's take the topic tantric sex itself. For a highly materialistic world outside Eastern countries, I'm talking about the Western world, the only out of the body experience which one can experience with body or within body is sexual joy. That's why people are craving for that, crazy after that, right? So when it comes to tantric sex, normal sex itself is pleasurable. When it comes to tantric sex, it amplifies the pleasure. How? That's a very important question. The practice in Tantra somehow makes you gender fluid. If you are a woman practicing Tantra, you will start exploring the manhood inside you. For a man who practices Tantra, it is the vice versa. He becomes she also. That's a very important psychological change or an elevation in one's psyche to understand feminine and masculine quotient in one's body and psyche. So if you are a woman and getting into a man who is into Tantra, real Tantra practice, he knows exactly what your body is. He knows what a female body is, how it responds, how to engage with it, what should be the emotional state he should possess while being with her. What is her emotional status? What is her psychological status? What is her physical status? What is her spiritual status? So he is trying to understand all these things, and it becomes a mindful act. So what is the difference between sex and tantric sex? I can easily tell that sex with awareness is tantric sex. And everyone should have tantric sex. Because sex should be an aware act. Sex should be an act of awareness. But people are doing it as a mechanical act. For a long time, for West, sex was just a bodily thing. But when Tantra came there, Tantra opened different arenas of sex, different dimensions of sex, spiritual, emotional, psychological, and all. Then they found it, wow. That's the merit of tantric sex. That's how tantric sex became a buzzword for Tantra in the for the Western audience.
What is the purpose of tantric sex?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. So on a positive note, if something, whether it be Tantra, Vedanta, Buddhism or anything, can bring awareness to your daily life, even in sex, that's good. I'm all for it. But when you sell it, understanding the market potential of this particular subject, then it's a different thing. That I have difference of opinion. And the fundamental question, what is the purpose of tantric sex? I gave an answer in a very mundane level. Now the real meaning of tantric sex in Tantra. I'll quote Abhinavagupta. If someone cuts this part and propagate it, I'll be in trouble. Because Abhinavagupta Acharya, Mahamaheshwara Abhinavagupta, who attained Bhairavahood, we consider him as Bhairava, who wrote his magnum opus Tantra Loka and all. When he talks about tantric sex, Maithuna, it is said in Tantra. It's part of Panchamakara, the 5 essential makaras, Malsya, Madhya, Mamsa, Mudra and Maithuna. Tantric Maithuna is done with the Dudi. Dudi is said to be the messenger. Devi is called as Shiva Dudi. Shiva's messenger and also Shiva's consort in sadhana. So Dudi is the one who assists the practitioner in Tantra sadhana, including the Maithuna as a ritual. So Abhinavagupta is giving some instructions to sadhaka to select Dudi for his sadhana. And the first instruction is that she should be your mother or sister.
Oh.
That is the first instruction. The second one is she should be in her menstrual period. If someone reads it literally, he might think Abhinavagupta is anti-social. Such horrendous things he is talking about. This is an erotic, orgiastic rite. Promoting incest. Certain things like that. This sort of allegations can fall upon Tantra and Abhinavagupta. I was shocked to read this. Abhinavagupta was not explaining. He just wrote it so. It was a blow. I was shocked, literally shocked. I was thinking, what sort of practice is that? I know that Tantra is antinomian. But it's becoming antisocial also. Then in a deeper contemplation, I got the answer. If I ask you, what is the purpose of sex? What will be your answer to that?
Pleasure and reproduction.
Pleasure and reproduction. So pleasure is the first thing we are all for, right? If it was not a pleasurable act, nobody will create progeny out of it. If it was a painful thing, nobody will even think of having progeny, reproduction, right? People normally, the sanitized people used to talk about sex as only a means to reproduction. The pleasure part is always cut. No. The fundamental principle is pleasure, ananda. And procreation is the byproduct of it most of the times. Like we say, child is not always by choice but by chance. They didn't want to make children, but somehow it happened. So they are all by chance, not by choice. It shouldn't be like that. They have to be carefully curated like that. Okay, it's just recreation is the first purpose of sex. Recreation is the first purpose of sex. It is the goal of sex. That's why we are indulging in sex. And next is procreation. So ideally, for a normal human being, having sex with mother or sister is not enjoyable. Indeed, it is incest, and he'll not find it happy. He'll not find it pleasurable, because it is against society and it's against one's own psyche. So the recreation element is rejected. Then the next purpose is procreation. Abhinavgupta asked or instructs, she should be in her menstrual period. During menstrual period, woman won't conceive. So procreation is also removed. If these two purposes of sex is removed from sex, then sex is for what purpose? What is the purpose of sex then? It becomes purposeless. If it is purposeless, will someone engage in that?
No.
No. Then comes the hidden purpose and the real purpose of sex. That is liberation. Nobody talks about liberation through sex. Only Tantra speaks. But to achieve that, one should definitely act in this way, where recreation and procreation should not come in the way.
How to do that?
That's the sadhana part. That's the difficult part. If you are not getting pleasure, or if you are doing tantric sex with another person, you have to ask this question inside, am I doing it for my pleasure?
But the contradiction here is that at one point you said it enhances the pleasure.
Yeah,
Tantric sex.
that's what I was talking about in the mundane way. Now I am talking about the real meaning of tantric sex. Somehow it helped people. That's another thing. But the real meaning of tantric sex is not recreation and procreation, but liberation only. That's why Abhinavgupta is making that statement. Mother and sister during their menstrual period. Selection of Dudi. If someone considers his Duti as mother or sister and is done during the menstrual period, he is a tantric yogi. I'm not telling that he should copulate with her during the menstrual period. But the intention should not be pleasure and progeny, but liberation. So it's a sublimation of one's own carnal desire into the higher realms of consciousness.
Is it a very big part of Tantra?
It is a very important part of Tantra. We cannot say it is a big part of Tantra, but it's a very important part of Tantra, and it becomes inevitable in certain practices.
So if everybody who's going into tantric practices have to go through these ways?
Not always. Not always. Not always. But at some point, if they are doing advanced things and all, they'll definitely. But at this point, the person will be, like we say, gem of a person kind of person. He will kind of shine like that. The other one will not feel any kind of insecurities with a tantric like that. Like Krishna was.
So doesn't this make it a very anti-social path?
No, it's not making it an antisocial way. It's actually elevating your consciousness from a very mundane level to the transcendental level. You got it? So, tantric sex is not meant to have sex. It might not indulge in activities which are supposed to be inevitable part of any sex. It's a more of an inner alchemy working.
But there are philosophies and there are teachings which seems to be working where there is a practice of retaining the sexual fluids or not indulging in this act, which says that it increases creativity or spiritual power. But on the contrary, you're saying...
Yeah. I was talking about two distinct streams in spirituality. One is the path of abstinence, rejecting the world. And another is the path of accepting the world. Indulgence. So Tantra has both forms. The transgressive path, Atimarga, which is out of all the worldly joys. And foremost among all the worldly joys is the allure of carnal desires. Isn't it? So they reject it. So they will not engage in sexual activities. And those things, they consider it as worldly. And they are outworldly. They are Atimargis. Out of the society and out of the world.
You mean brahmacharis?
Yeah, mostly when I talk about Atimargis, I am talking about the Shaiva sannyasis. Lakulas, Pashupatas, Kapalikas, Kalamukas, Paimalas, Mausalas, like that. Akhoris, in present times. They are not into any such things. They are into Virya Samrakshana, retention of the semen. We call it as Bindu Dharana. Bindu is semen, which is kept inside. But it's not kept inside by rejecting the natural flow of it. The natural law is to indulge in sex. If you decide not to indulge in sex, you are against nature. That is different and that is difficult, and that will make your life difficult too. They also know that. They are not against nature, but instead of that, what they are doing is, while keeping the bindu inside, they have some techniques to move it up and down according to their will. We call it as Urdhva Reta. Retas is semen which is taken upward. Urdhva Retas. And it becomes Ojas. And it becomes Tejas. And it becomes spiritual glow. And it becomes transformed into the nectar, Amrita. At the end. That is the path of Bindu Dharana. When it comes to the acceptance path, the Mantramargi's path, there is Amrita Plavana. The Amrita is let to go. Amrita here is sexual fluids. It can actually flow down. So in Bindu Dharana, it's not only limited to male. There are female practitioners also. They are called as Rajo Dharana. Their act is called as Rajo Dharana. The blood is kept inside. The ovum is kept inside. Even if they engage in sex, they will not get pregnant. Even if. They will not. Even if. So that is the idea of retention of semen and sexual fluids inside for greater agility, prowess, and spiritual elevation or such things. At the same time, we have Amrita Plavana, where we find the tantric sex in this way. That's also a spiritual path, but both are distinct. That's it. It doesn't mean that this path is good and that path is bad. No. These are two distinct paths. People, according to their taste, receives or try to follow the path which they like to.
So people can switch between these two paths based on their convenience?
No. People can't switch between these two paths. Normally people does that. If you are an Adimargi, if you have rejected the world, that's how normally happens. If you are a monk, you are supposed to live a monastic life, right? And if you indulge in a worldly life, you'll call that monk a hypocrite, right?
Yes.
Correct.
He is not supposed to be a monk. If he leaves his monastic life and get married, still there will be problem, but we won't call him hypocrite. It's okay. He left sannyasa and now he married. Still people will talk bad about him. That's another thing. But will not be that problematic. But if you are in a monastic life, pretend to be a monk and engage in all these things, then you are a hypocrite in the society. But when it comes to the mantramargis or the grihasthas, garhabhatya is a dharma. You have accepted the world. You have accepted the world as it is. You decided to marry. You have some certain duties to your wife, to your children, to your father, mother, to the society, isn't it? And you are pretending to be a monk. You are rejecting all these things and living a monastic life inside the family. Not having familial relationship with the family, not having the marital relationship with wife, not having filial relationship with the children, and you are living inside the family. What do you call that such a person? Spiritually elevated one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Aren't they doing the same crime? The monk who is a hypocrite, how are they different? They are doing the same crime. Tantra is not into this hypocrisy. If you are a family man, do your duties well. You shouldn't act like a monk. And if you want to be a monk, leave the family. Convince them. Get out of it, like Buddha did. But normally the notion of spirituality is like this. People think that detachment should be practiced within the family. No. You are rejecting the family. You are rejecting your duties to them. And how can you be spiritual if you can't do your duties?
So why doesn't a monk choose the tantric way? It seems to be a more easier way.
No, that's upon people's... Say, Kalidasa talks about that. Loge binne ruchirha. Loga has different tastes and preferences. I might like idli. Dosha is also made with the same batter, but you like it in dosha form. So if I tell you idli and dosha are the same batter, why can't you like idli? That's different, right? It's upon individual levels of psyche, understanding, preferences, choice.
So does the guru choose this?
Guru?
Choose the path which this person has to go through?
Yeah, mostly when we are into certain paths, the guru will be in certain path, right? We find gurus in certain paths only. In the beginning we choose our path, then we get into the guru. That's how it normally happens. A sannyasi will not get a tantric guru like that. Tantric only will get a tantric guru. Same way. And there are instances where some gurus can guide you out of the lineage tradition and all. If I am interested in sannyasa and my vasanas are still revolving around worldly activities, my guru can actually tell me, you better choose another path. Still it's spiritual path. It's not lesser. Same way. A tantric practitioner getting involved with tantra and his mind is revolving around the concept of vairagya and all. Master can easily tell this path is not suitable for you. Honest masters will tell that. You get out of this, you find another guru, get initiated from him, like that.
Thank you so much, Ramji. With this, we will conclude our first episode. There were so many interesting topics that we looked at, and some of the concepts really blew my mind. So, in our next episode, we would like to know the various meditations in Vijnana Bhairava Tantra and if there are sadhanas that I can do to enhance my life. And also, we have so many other topics that we want to learn from you. So, we are looking forward to it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.